What's going up? What's going up? What's going on, YouTube? 5 minutes. Episode 3. FireFlowerPower is back. Joined with OB and Groose.
Hey, OB here. What's up, everyone?
Hey, everyone. This is Groose. Nice to see y'all. How we doing?
And that's really good to hear. But before we get started, I know Groose wants to tell us some type of an accomplishment.
Oh, yeah. We were talking about big accomplishments last episode. I beat Elden Ring.
Woo!
I also beat Millennia, who's the hardest boss in the game, and she sucked. But yeah, Elden Ring, I think my final time was like 70 hours, which is like on the low side for a lot of people. A lot of people, like I have a couple friends, their playthroughs gone to like 120 and they're still not done. So yeah, Elden Ring, man, it's gonna be hard for any other game this year to beat it for Game of the Year for me. Like it was absolutely incredible.
That good?
It's so good that Nintendo decided to delay Breath of the Wild 2 because they played Elden Ring and were like, oh God, we gotta add a bunch of this stuff in.
Which is actually a pretty good segue because I definitely wanted to talk about that. And first, my opinion to this day, even for whatever console, if it's a series or franchise that I want, I may be like the only one that feels this way, but I feel like delays are great, especially if they're being transparent and saying they need more development time. Even though, like, you know, we won't really know, because like Gru said, what if Nintendo really did pull Breath of the Wild 2 because they wanted to make sure that they had a chance for Game of the Year? But you know, I'm all for the delay.
I think they care about that stuff. They want to treat their workers right and not crunch them. Unlike the Pokemon company. Cuff.
No holding back, no punches.
Screw the Pokemon company. Yeah, I think with this, I mean, I joke about Elden Ring and this because Zelda's obviously its own thing, but yeah, I think most people nowadays are completely fine with delays because we've seen what happens with games that don't get delayed. And then they end up, you know, coming out like complete trash. And then you get games that got delayed, like Cyberpunk, and it comes out like trash anyways. So, yeah, it's more like it's like, you know, and people like to throw around that Miyamoto quote, which has been done to death. But I mean, it is a good quote. Like,
dude, hold on. Speaking of that, if Nintendo Life did a dig at where that quote come from, and it looks like he did not actually say that. That seems to be a mistranslation.
Oh,
that's unsurprising. Like that people, I'm sure somebody just one day just made that graphic and was like, yeah, Miyamoto would say this because he's the pinnacle of good game design.
Wait,
look what he did to Paper Mario.
I am in shock. Really? He didn't say that?
Now let me look it up right now. I'll
what?
show you.
That is crazy. Cause
I mean, people will pull quotes and then put them on graphics like all the time. You know, like, and even then that quote still has issues because no, there is such thing as a delayed game that is also bad. To dig at Cyberpunk, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, no, in Cyberpunk, I don't know if they ever fixed that, but you know, I definitely welcome delays, especially if the developer is flat out saying, hey, we need more time in order to make sure that the game is great. So I'm all for it, you know. And in terms of Breath of the Wild 2, the only downside to me personally, whenever a game keeps getting delayed, little by little I do lose that hype for the game. Do you guys feel the same? What do you guys feel?
I mean, I definitely did. Like when Breath of the Wild was in its, you know, cycle, and like whenever it was supposed to be a Wii U game, and we were all sitting there with our Wii U's waiting for video games to come out on it. It was really disheartening whenever they were like, okay, 2015, 2016. Oh, it's also going to be coming out with NX, you know, at the same time. That kind of that can be really disheartening. mostly just because you're just thinking like, okay, well, like if I let's say if you're still playing it on Wii U, which I know. Let's see. I know Phoenix, you got a Switch right when it came out. Oh, bet
Right.
did you get a Switch on release, or did you play Breath of the Wild on Wii U?
No, the plan was to play it on Wii U, but the people in line were they peer pressured me into just buying a Switch with everything.
Oh, wow. Well, peer pressure works. But
Yep.
I think something that comes with that a lot of the time, if you don't have the brand new hardware, is the scare of like, oh, is this gonna run fine on the hardware that I have? And luckily, Breath of the Wild runs completely fine on Wii U. In fact, it has slightly better load times, but uh,
Oh.
that's only important in speedrunning though.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say most of the time, if a game gets delayed, a lot of the time now you'll see people saying like, "Good, please polish the game as much as you possibly can," because people are a
Yeah.
lot more patient nowadays than they used to be, and that is a really good thing.
Yeah, I think for me, I come from like games like Call of Duty, Destiny, where it's a yearly thing, and
Oh
sometimes
boy.
even with a yearly thing, they can't even fix the bugs from the previous game or the previous expansion, previous season, whatever you want to call it. So here comes Nintendo, releasing single player games, and when they delay a game, it's most times because of a good reason, and I do appreciate them for that. I like it, but the thing with Breath of the Wild 2 is the reason I was talking about losing hype was, we've heard about it for a while, and
Losing hype. Are you crazy?
yeah, I just
The hype hasn't started. The hype starts as soon as they show what the title of the game is.
you think
That's when the
so?
hype. Yes, that's when
Well,
the hype season
Well,
starts.
here's the thing I would say about that too is that I mean there is a thing to be said about losing hype, which this will also lead into another topic we'll talk about. But when Final Fantasy VII Remake was announced at E3, it was like, oh my god, this is insane, and then there was 4 years of silence with like nothing at all. So yeah, that is a way that you lose hype. But I would say in Breath of the Wild 2's case, actually, the more it gets delayed and the more time between the first game and this one is actually making me more excited for it, because that
wow.
makes me think they're going to be adding a lot more to it. A lot of the problems that I have with the original might actually be resolved with like brand new locations that are unique.
Yes.
That kind of stuff. Maybe unique dungeons. That kind of the story looks like it's going to be a lot more prevalent. So if they're the longer they're taking with it is actually making me more excited, because I'm thinking, okay, then it's probably going to be even more polished. There's probably going to be even like more new stuff in it. So, because I mean, like they're using the groundwork for the first game, right? Like they have to be.
Mm-hmm.
So imagine then what they're doing right now. Like all of this time is being spent on brand new stuff.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
so
and
I would say
that's
it's
really
having an
good.
opposite effect on me. Definitely.
Yeah, for me, it's been out for a while. Like knowing that Breath of the Wild, I think that's why Nintendo also switched to these somewhat Twitter announcements and announcing the release date like within months of the announcement.
Yeah.
I think that's great. I think when they do that, that's great because they announced Mario Striker. Well, boom, it's out in June, and that's awesome. I feel like that's great. So definitely,
That is
I
really
think
nice.
I think that's good. But Breath of the Wild 2 to me is in a weird spot to me. Am I gonna play it? Yes, but I kind of like Bruce. It's just that my thing with the whole, them adding more dungeons and stuff, like kind of like more villages and stuff. Well, that only makes me have like a higher expectation for the game, and sometimes that's what is also my own downfall because then I'm like pop in the game day one, and it's like the same map. All you added was the sky. Like, are you kidding me? And it's like,
I mean, we hope that that doesn't happen,
right,
but
right,
you never know.
right, and so that's why I'm kind of sometimes about when Nintendo delays games that does tend to sometimes be the case. But at the end of the day, something that OP said, which is to make sure that the who knows, because maybe they are saying development, but maybe their employees need more time to rest and stuff like that. So I think that's also something else that a lot of people don't like to think about, or not that they don't like to think about, that they forget to think about. Just like any other job, people are it's a human powered thing, and people could get tired. People need to go see their families, stuff like that. So I'm all for it. But
yeah, there's plenty of companies out there that will abuse their workers. I mean, yeah, look at like Obi said, the Pokemon company, or like Naughty Dog with The Last of Us 2. Apparently, that had a horrible crunch dev cycle.
Wow.
So and then you look at like Insomniac, who did the brand new Ratchet and Clank, and all of their employees say like, we never had to crunch at all. Like it was an incredibly great like time working on this game, and the new Ratchet and Clank came out super good. So it goes to show that no, you don't need to crunch. It's just that some companies just don't care at all about their employees. But I mean, that's America.
There you go. Gotta make them digits. Gotta make that money.
What about Ubisoft? They're not America, right?
That's true. I guess there's just corporations in general, I should say.
Woo! Mario and Rabbids. Can't wait. If they delay that one, I'm gonna be sad. But
delay it.
But oh man, quickly jumping into something that I do want to talk about that is also heartbreaking for me personally is E3 2022 has been officially canceled. For the record, this is just E3 2022. E3 has yet to say whether or not they are canceled forever or any plans for 2023. But I know Obi and Goose have a lot to say about this, so
I don't have a lot to say. All I have to say is like, okay, like who really cares? Like with the E3 still happening, it's just not going to be called E3. Nintendo's gonna have their little presentation. Sony's gonna put up their presentation. Ubisoft is gonna put up their video or whatever. Everyone's gonna do their own thing. So
and Jeff Keighley is gonna lead us into the sun.
our
blessed Dorito Pope.
Summer Fun Fest. I just think that E3 is what made a lot of it happen for me personally. Like waking up, early during summer, seeing Reggie come out in the stage.
I have not felt that way since I was in high school.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing. I haven't felt like that since Nintendo stopped doing their physical presentations. I still enjoyed watching.
The last two they did were complete disasters.
Yep. Yeah, Breath of the Wild, or not Breath of the Wild, Skyward Sword. Skyward Sword. Yeah, with the motion controls not working.
I love that game, but that was embarrassing.
That was, and I'm assuming it was probably some type of like connectivity.
Too far from the console. Or too many wireless devices.
Interfering.
Yeah, that was Bill Trennan was saying that, right? He was like, if you have wireless devices, please shut them off.
Please shut them off. Yeah, I remember that one, and of course, I remember the one that I did not like at all. The one that I still remember being like, I woke up early for this, and that was the Wii Music one. And
man, that's hilarious.
Was way before that.
Yeah,
it's true.
2008. That was just the most the one I remember. That was just the most infamous one for me. The whole E3 presentation was like the only games that were on display were the family friendly games, and I think the only big game they announced that day, to my recollection, was the Animal Crossing game that they were in development or something like that. But 2008, yeah, that one that was not good. And then of course the Wii U one, where I think Goose has said it. Goose has said it in the previous podcast where EA came out and basically swore up and down.
That was 2011. That was 2011.
They literally were
like, we have an unprecedented partnership.
Yeah, it's gonna be great.
Yeah, unprecedented.
Unprecedented. It was unprecedented.
They were
not in the way they said it would be.
But like they were showing pictures of Battlefield, FIFA, and all this great stuff. There were some games, but they definitely didn't support it as they said they would. And then wasn't EA the one that also commented on Wii U hardware or something? And then Jeff Keighley had interviewed Reggie Fils-Aimé, and even Reggie Fils-Aimé was like, no, EA went back and cleared up the comments, because it was like some comments of like that the Wii U can't perform or whatever, and it was.
I remember that because all the Nintendo fans were out in defense mode, and all the Sony and Xbox fans were like attacking the Wii U.
Yeah.
So I absolutely remember that.
Yeah, I just remember that, but so many good memories and bad. But for me, it's those presentations were pretty important. Even though after Nintendo decided to step away from physical presentations and started doing their directs, because yes, I mean. Nintendo does have control, and Nintendo is a powerhouse with that direct. They announce a direct, thousands of likes within minutes. State of Play gets announced, and 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 not to hate, because I do have a PlayStation 5. PlayStation 5 is great, but
I have one too. There's never anything hype.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, for me, there's just not really anything.
It feels like the State of Play feels more like a corporate presentation, and the Nintendo Direct feels like the hype stuff. Like
the hype is real.
They know their audience. They know what we want.
Yeah, they're actually talking to their fans. Whereas, like, yeah, it feels like State of Plays feel like a commercial for the new iPhone. You know? Just kind of sitting there like, okay, here's some... And, like, the thing I'll say about State of Plays is that for a while, they were kind of doing a cool thing where, like they were going to show off some stuff that nobody cares about, but there was one thing that was a big deal. And what they would do is they would show the PlayStation 4 like line thing with the whenever it goes in rest mode, it like has the orange, and then it turns on and it would play like a sound effect from like a classic game. Like when it was whenever they were announcing Resident Evil 3 remake, it was the menu sounds from RE3 Classic on PS1. And so at the start of the State of Play, people hear that and they're like, "Whoa, what?" And then you wait 20 minutes, and then you finally get to see that. They also did the same thing with FF7, which was a big deal because, again, there had been like 4 years of silence about FF7 before that happened. So that was really cool, but they haven't done that with any of the recent State of Plays, and now they're just super sterile and boring, and they don't even get anything cool announced in them anyways.
Yep.
So, yeah.
I told my friend, hey, if Final Fantasy 7 Part 2, Persona 6, or... I don't even know what else. Kingdom Hearts 4 gets announced in one of these. Send me the link, but otherwise, I don't care. I'm not watching.
Yeah, which even then, I doubt any of those things, anything that big would be in a State of Play. They're probably gonna have some kind of summer big conference thing that's like all video, because that's what everybody's probably gonna do now without E3.
Yeah, no, it's just, man, E3 was just, to me, because I know that OB feels that way, where in terms of, like, digital events.
Initially, I felt like you did. I'm like, oh no, Nintendo's gonna not be at E3 anymore. They're gonna be left out of the industry. No one's gonna really talk about them a whole lot. And that kind of did happen a little bit at first, but I feel like they did make the right choice, because that last presentation about the Wii U where Reggie was doing the zombie face thing on the gamepad, it's like, ooh, I like French toast, and the thing wasn't even working right.
Yeah, well,
not even that, but let me say this real quick. Like, during that whole presentation, like, we were waiting for like the hype. You know, when they showed the 3DS, they showed like all of these titles, like all these games coming: Animal Crossing, Paper Mario, Kid Icarus, Star Fox, Ocarina of Time, and then Kingdom Hearts, Metal Gear Solid, and they had a bunch of stuff where the 3DS announcement was hype.
Yeah.
Now comes the Wii U, like, we're waiting for that same type of announcement, it's their next gen console. Like, nope, here's new Super Mario Bros. U, and new Super Mario Bros. 2 just came out 2 months ago, but here's this one that looks just like the Wii one, but in HD. Pikmin 3, great. But other than that, like, we're like, okay, what's the hype announcement? Like, you have to show something, and then it gets to the very end, and it's just
Nintendo Land,
and a bunch of fireworks.
Not gonna lie, Nintendo Land has some pretty good games.
Dude, I love Nintendo Land.
Nintendo Land was dope.
Yeah, same, but like that did them no favors, because like Nintendo fans were waiting for the food, and they did not give us food. They gave us a slice of bread.
That's true. That is true. I mean, like, I have a lot of really good memories with E3, regardless of, like, when a lot of people think of E3 in general, they think of cringe, which yes, there's a lot of cringy stuff that happens during every presentation, but there's a lot of really good moments. Like I can just off the top of my head like name a few really good moments. Like I remember, yeah, whenever FF7 remake was announced, like they were showing off World of Final Fantasy, and everybody was like, okay, like that looks cute, whatever. Then all of a sudden, you know, the presenter Sony is talking, and then the background behind him just turns into like a green like kind of wave moving in the background, and everybody that was an FF7 fan was like, is that a live stream? And he starts saying like many years ago a very important game came out, and then they showed the trailer that just the moment gave me absolute chills. Let's see what else. The long wait for Devil May Cry 5, whenever, and that was at an Xbox conference of all things. Whenever they showed like the trailer begins with just these dudes fighting these weird creatures, like army men or whatever. They're all, you hold the line, that kind of stuff. And it's just like, okay, sure, whatever. This looks weird, but okay. Then all of a sudden, you see the Capcom logo and a palm muted guitar, and you're like, wait, stop! And then all of a sudden, you see the side of the van. It says the Devil May Cry logo. You see Nero in like full HD, how we'd never seen him, and then he pulls out a robot arm, and you're like, oh my god! Like, there's so many moments from E3 where like I don't know, it's just fun to get really hype about stuff, and regardless of like if there ends up being more disappointments than there is hype stuff, I always will appreciate the moments I was watching E3, and then something like incredibly hype happens, and I just lose my mind for a bit because I love that feeling.
I love those feelings too, especially when you're like, for me, it recently happened with the Mario Strikers thing. You know, lately, because just
was
like
E3.
No, for me it was the most recent direct.
We're talking about E3.
More
hype announcements in general.
More relating to that feeling. Just because once they announced Mario Strikers, I had that same feeling again that I would have with E3s announcing, you know, games. But just like Obi said before, I don't really play other games other than Mario, Zelda, typical Nintendo IPs. So for me, when I do see E3s or directs, whatever it may be, if it's not one of those, I'm like, oh, okay, like, all right.
The one like Arlo. If it's not Pigment or Metro, he's like, oh, it's all right.
It's all right. So that's my thing with that. Cause like I'll see the direct and I'll see everybody happy. I love seeing reactions of other people being hyped for other games. That's the one thing I do love about E3s and directs and all this goodness, because kind of like how you're saying, Bruce, is how you got hyped for Final Fantasy VII. I personally like to see those reactions. Like I enjoy people being happy, getting announced. An announcement coming up, and then gamers being happy. Like that's what makes me
Xenoblade 3,
really happy. Ooh,
yeah, Xenoblade 3 was incredibly hyped too. It's just like that's the kind of thing that, you know, you would only get in E3 besides Nintendo, because Nintendo has their directs, and, you know, like, so for Nintendo hype stuff, you get that sprinkled around the year every now and then, but like June of every year was always like, okay, there's gonna probably be like 90% of this I'm not gonna care about, but there's gonna be some stuff in there that I'm gonna lose my mind about. And yeah, I lived for like exciting surprises like that. And even then, yeah, that goes into something I want to say earlier too, whenever you're talking about how Nintendo's doing good with like announcing a game and then releasing it within like a couple of months. Like that's what Capcom has been doing for the last while, where they'll announce a game and then it comes out like exactly like 6 months later, so that you get hyped for it, but then you don't have to wait too long to actually play it. Like they did that with Resident Evil 2 and 3. Did that with Resident Evil 7, Devil May Cry. It's a really smart move, and I wish that more companies did that instead of announcing a game and then waiting.
And then delay.
Yeah, waiting 4 years to actually give us anything. Like, sure, it's good to know that it exists, but, you know, it's such a good feeling to be like, to watch a trailer for a new game and be like, whoa, there's gameplay in this? Like, this looks done.
Yep,
like
Metroid Dread.
Metroid Dread is a perfect example. Yeah, that was in E3 last year, right?
Yeah, and it came out like 3 months after that, if that.
Yeah, it was in October, and it was like extremely polished and done. So that was the fact they kept that under wraps. They
For
actually
so
kept
long.
Metroid 5 under wraps for so long is impressive.
That game is
Yeah,
awesome still. I still think it's
Dread
the
is
best
amazing.
Metroid game in the series.
Yeah, because it's
Out
the
of
only one you
out,
played.
out of how many games he played in the
Exactly.
series?
Next topic. Okay. Nah, yeah, that game was awesome. Definitely made me kind of like dislike the fact that I skipped all the others. But I've already asked Goose for the timeline, so and I know some of them are in the Nintendo online service, Switch Online. So gonna
Super
have to
Metroid.
play some of them. What was that?
Super Metroid's on Switch Online. You can play that one.
Oh,
And the
That's
original.
that's pretty much the only one that you can play on Switch Online. You can play the original, but it's way more worth it to play Zero Mission on Game Boy Advance. But you can play all those on Wii U before they close the eShop.
He's not cool. He sold his Wii U.
That's right. You sold your Wii U, you monster. Well, okay, then just
Well,
emulate.
You could do it another way. That we can't use that word on the stream because the ninjas will come at us.
I just used it. Emulation. Remember,
Emulation?
it's always morally correct to pirate Nintendo games.
God, I'm so tired of that stupid picture.
It is definitely overdone, but I feel vindicated saying it about Nintendo.
Oh man, I keep thinking of like other E3 memories. This is made me really melancholy because, yeah, I'm gonna miss E3, but again, yeah, I can't see a world without E3. It's not really needed anymore, especially with demos being able to be sent through online instead of having to go to an actual convention, having people try the game and giving you feedback. I think it'll be a good thing. I mean, state of plays don't get a lot of hype, but directs do. So we'll see. And then I'm still waiting on Kingdom Hearts 4 news to see Nomura where you at. We need to see that next installment.
I think, I can't help but feel a little sad that E3 is over because, like, even with it being 90% cringe, which even then it can be fun to watch and laugh at cringe sometimes. Like all of the Ubisoft conferences that they did with like Aisha Tyler. I love Aisha, but oh my god, she was so not funny in any of those. And then they would have the Just Dance segments, and people would come out and be like, "Hey, buy Just Dance." And it's like, why are you here? Nobody in the audience is going to buy Just Dance.
But it ended up being like one of the top selling games.
Oh yeah, easily.
Yeah.
Like it's one of their biggest cash cows, and they again they make them yearly. Friggin', I think Just Dance 2021 was available on Wii, like Wii, not Wii U.
Oh
Wii.
I
yeah.
think it was 2020, but yeah, like it got to a point where like the Wii U sold so bad that they just decided not to make a version of Just Dance for it. They just said, we'll do the Wii version, and if you want to play it on Wii U, you can just use backwards compatibility.
Yeah, because a lot of people have Wii's still. A lot of people that would play Just Dance. Those people, we call them normies.
Yep.
a lot of them have Wii's still, so that makes sense.
They
Yeah,
plug in their Wii into their 80-inch flat panel with using composite cables and having it set to 4.3 without
Oh
knowing.
god. Oh no. That's anytime I see somebody playing like Ocarina of Time or something stretched out to 16:9, I just kind of vomit a little bit. I hate that so much.
The
Yeah,
normies don't know what an
normies.
aspect ratio is.
Absolutely not. They don't understand that black bars on the side of your screen are sometimes a good thing. But they're always distracting. I would say I can't help but feel a little sad about E3 going because it was always a fun thing and just like a whole week where you're just like,
to have video
like,
game celebration.
yeah, let's just talk about games a little bit and like sure you can look at it in like a really the word is escaping me right now, but like a negative negative light of like, you know, none of these people actually care about anything. They're just trying to they're just glorified commercials. But you know,
I feel like what you're saying is still going to happen. It's just not going to be labeled E3.
Yeah,
well,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
exactly. Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. And but like, I still, I'm wondering if this is all going to be, because again, I think the most important thing with all of this, you know, I joke about Jeff Keighley in his summer of gaming being hype. I do actually really like Jeff. I think he's a really good
Yeah,
dude.
he's awesome.
But I will say that the it's kind of like going like quantity in a way over how he does summer of gaming, because if he's going to be saying that there's going to be announcements all throughout the summer, like all 3 months or whatever, then like you're going to have to be waiting a lot longer for announcements, and who even knows if we're going to be getting as much as you would at a normal E3, where like with E3 it's like here is a week of just nothing but announcements, you know, and then like all of it is congested together into hype. But like with summer of gaming, you have no idea. I remember, I think it was 2020 was the first time he did it, and like the very first thing right off the bat was he announced the Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1+2,
Yeah.
which I was incredibly hyped for because I grew up with those games and they did a fantastic job with that. But then like after that there were like no announcements for like the rest of the month of June. And he was like, "Yeah, summer of gaming, it's happening." And it's like, it doesn't feel like it, Jeff.
Nah, he's a cool guy. But yeah, no, I feel the same way. It's just something about E3. You know, we're gonna definitely get used to it, but it was a very unique time. Even me, you know, always excited around this time just to know like the times, that way I can request off, because I would see all the shows just to see them. So it was a nice thing. But I do want to you know, talk about another sort of event that I did not mention I was going to talk to you guys, because it's somewhat of a curveball, but it definitely relates a lot to this. So before I do, does anybody have anything else to say about E3 in general?
No.
No?
I mean, we'll be fine without it for however long. Who knows if it comes back next year. I can live without. I haven't even. It's been years since I've watched other people's presentations. I just really watch Nintendo Directs, but that's just me personally. Like, I understand what other people feel, but I personally just really don't care. I'm still gonna get my Nintendo Direct.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, again, like, I wouldn't be honest if E3 just doesn't come back after this. You know, I'd like they're trying to say that they haven't given up on 2023 yet, but no, I'm just gonna assume that it's dead, and you know, it might be a good thing. Maybe maybe companies will start, other, you know, Xbox and PlayStation might try to make their presentations more like Nintendo Directs and have like really good pacing and energy, that kind of thing. So I mean, here's hoping for that. And then even then, it would be nice, like how Nintendo is doing some Twitter announcements here and there. It'd be nice to see some of those sometimes, just a surprise like drop of like,
yeah,
oh,
a shadow
by
drop.
By the way, this game that you really want, it just got announced. Here you go. Like that's always nice to see. So like in a way, I'm sad to see E3 go.
For small or controversial stuff, like, you know, they announced Paper Mario that way because there was gonna be a storm if they had put that as the last game on a Nintendo Direct.
Absolutely, yeah, that's true. I guess you couldn't really have anything like that big of a deal. What I'd like to see Nintendo do more is like the way they did the Sakurai Directs for Smash.
Oh, yes.
I'd like to see them do more of like, maybe instead of like straight directs, be like, okay, here's an announcement a couple days before. We're going to be talking about this new game for like 20 minutes straight or whatever. Like, you know, like if Metroid Prime 4 truly exists, maybe one day they'll be like, okay, here we're going to have like a 20 to 30 minute demonstration about Prime 4. Here you go.
Well, the earlier Nintendo Directs used to be like that, and people complain because it would slow down the pacing. So I'm glad that they're kind of separating it now, at least for Smash. They made their own like Sakurai Presents instead of putting that in the middle of a Nintendo
in the
Direct.
Smash Direct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know, like part of me will miss E3, but the other part of me is like, yeah, we're still gonna get announcements, you know.
Yeah, regardless.
like the PlayStation and Xbox had their hour-long presentations for their new consoles in 2020, and without E3, and those were completely fine. So if we just get more stuff like that from the other companies that aren't Nintendo, then it's missing E3 is not going to be that big a deal.
Yeah.
What is it that Xbox says when they announce something worldwide exclusive?
Yeah, worldwide exclusive.
World premiere.
World premiere.
World premiere.
Exclusive world premiere.
Well,
they said that for every single thing they showed in E3 2017.
Yeah.
I remember.
Well,
for stuff that was already announced, like Dragon Ball FighterZ.
Yeah, yeah. But that brings me to our topic of, again, it's probably not gonna be anything new to you guys, but now that we were talking about Jeff Keighley, it's definitely something I want to talk about. But I want to bring into conversation about the video game awards and how do we feel about that.
I really don't care about the Game Awards. I kind of like the Oscars and all that. I'm like, okay, cool. Famous people get together and they do this, and that. I don't care. But speaking of the Game Awards, I feel like they're always incredibly biased and pick the most Western-looking open-world game. And if it doesn't fit that criteria, it's not gonna win anything major other than maybe some side thing. Oh, it won Best Platformer.
I mean, It Takes Two won Game of the Year at this last one, and I thought that was pretty deserving.
Which one?
It Takes Two.
I haven't played it,
I
but
don't know what that is.
But
it's a really sweet game. It's made by the people that made A Way Out, which is like you and another person. Like it's a co-op only game. Like you have to play it with another person.
That won Game of the Year.
Yeah, yeah, it did.
In the same year that Metroid Dread came out.
Yeah.
Yep. Which I don't agree with, but I was happy nonetheless.
Yeah,
I feel like
it won.
I feel like they're scared to give Nintendo Game of the Year.
They gave it to them for Breath of the Wild.
Yeah,
and that's it. That's because that game was like viral. I feel like if it's not a viral game, and it's Nintendo, they won't do it.
I mean, then again, this goes more into like personal stuff. But like, what has Nintendo put out besides Breath of the Wild that truly deserves Game of the Year? For me, Metroid does, but
Metroid Dread, yeah, that's kind of how I felt too.
Yeah, I know you're like, oh, it's not an action cinematic game, so it doesn't get Game of the Year.
No, I think it's fun. I wouldn't, just like other movies where it's like it's just a fun movie. Like if it's not like. I don't even know how to say it, but there
were many good games in 2020. There were many, many good games in 2020.
I know Metroid Dread should have gotten it, man, and maybe I was being a little too biased because that's when I played Metroid Dread, but Metroid Dread was just on it, man. Everything from that game, the adrenaline, the thrill, the gameplay, the story, like even for me that I'd never even played a Metroid game, for me to be able to literally say, wow, what a great plot, wow, like I can't wait for the next game, that's what I want from a game. Something like Animal Crossing, it's more like, cool, this is fun. I wonder if next game I'll be able to do this, and usually they will improve on this stuff like that, but it was fun.
I don't want to get into semantics either, but with the amount of content that Animal Crossing was missing on release, like I kind of don't really know if it would even be worth it for that. But that's just me. I'm just saying that I think Animal Crossing is like a wonderful, perfect niche game. But like whenever you start comparing it, I mean, well, okay, like it has a niche. It definitely has a niche of people that want that life sim style. Because not everybody wants that. The point is, what I'm saying is that
who wants It Takes Two? I wonder how much that sold.
Yeah, no, Takes Two is weird. I've never played it.
That thing won Game of the Year.
That thing won Game of the Year. When I saw that, I was shocked myself too. But I never haven't played it, so I can't speak on it. But I mean,
if it's Nintendo, it gets points taken off. That's what I've noticed. It usually.
I'm gonna disagree with that.
Okay, well you can, but I feel like anytime Nintendo has something really good, they don't take it seriously just because it's Nintendo or because it's Japanese. Why did Persona not get Game of the Year when that came out?
Oh, that's because it went up against Breath of the Wild and Mario Odyssey. Mario Odyssey
Automata,
and Breath of the
Persona
Wild.
come out in 2016.
in Japan, but they considered it 2017 for English.
For English, yeah, it was a nomination. I remember that because I remember the music. It was actually part of the orchestra. I love the orchestra, but I also did want to bring up the one of my favorite memories, funny, hilarious moments was when Nintendo was like, "We're gonna." So for those who are listening and may not know, VGA was not always known Video Game Awards. It was known as VGX, and it was a Spike TV show type of thing before he started putting it all online. And in one of the years, it was the time of the Wii U. Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze was coming out, and Nintendo was teasing on Twitter that they had a major surprise. Everybody was going crazy saying, "Oh, it's gonna be Zelda Wii U, Zelda U, Zelda U, Zelda U." Like, there's no way they're gonna waste this like opportunity to announce something small. And then I remember, and the clip is still on YouTube because I'll always see it from time to time. And the big surprise was that Nintendo announced that Cranky Kong was a playable character in Tropical Freeze.
Yeah, I do remember that.
And even so even in the video you'll see because they're playing, they're like, hey, you have an announcement, and they're like, yeah, Cranky Kong's gonna be a playable character, and then they announced the release date, and Jeff Kitty's like, well, you know, Reggie, like, this is great, you know, I'm sure people are gonna buy this game, but is that all? Like, don't you want to have like say anything else for the millions of fans around the world? And Reggie's like, we announced Cranky, we announced the release date, what more do you want? And it's like, what? What?
Oh,
what do you mean? What more do you want?
Really say that?
Yes, you can look it up. It's VGX, Reggie Fils-Aimé with Jeff Keighley, and they were with the head of Retro Studios, or I think it might have been the director of Tropical Freeze. But it's one of my favorite moments, and it's one of my moments when Nintendo was in a really drought, you know, in terms of content, and Donkey Kong was coming out, and that was their big announcement. And I still remember, I actually even made a video talking about the VGX and the announcement of Cranky Kong, and it's on my YouTube channel. It's like a very, very old video, but yeah, I just remember that because it was one of those awkward moments. Like, are you serious? You're on middle stage, millions of people are watching, and you're gonna use it to say Cranky Kong is a playable character, and here's the release date.
Sounds like a shit post.
it's really what happened. And so, you know, obviously Nintendo nowadays is not that. They're using Twitter to shadow drop Nintendo Directs, etc., etc. But for me, for the VGAs, the reason I brought it up, not just really for the awards, because I feel a little similarity when it comes to awards like Obedese, but I will say that you know, there are some games that, in my opinion, that those games that I have played, and when they lose, it kind of feels like, wait, what? Like, all right, cool. But I wanted to talk more about what is being announced in the VGAs, because, you know, sometimes Jeff Keighley will be on Twitter like, or he'll be on stage, he'll be like, you've never seen a game like this, and then the game like this is some kind of like weird indie game that, like, I don't know. My thing is whenever, a lot of the times VGAs has been known to release trailers that are from indie titles and stuff like that, and I don't know if it's just because, like I said, maybe I only play certain games, but I just feel like it's not the time and place. I get that it's a video game celebration, and maybe that's the answer, right? Well, that's why they're doing it, but not a lot of companies release major announcements there, and the only time I think one of the big three, Sony, Nintendo, Microsoft, announced something big was Microsoft when they announced their Xbox One X on the VGA Awards. But other than that, I haven't seen any announcements of that. But I just wanted to kind of get you guys' thoughts, because not so much on the awards, but on what is being shown.
Right. I think I think a lot of people tend to think of it as like an E3 too, and I think also Jeff tries to treat it as an E3 too, but yeah, there have been like a few really big announcements here and there, but for the last couple of years there hasn't been like anything. Like the last stuff I can think of that was a big deal that was announced at the Game Awards was like Sekiro and Mortal Kombat 11.
Oh yeah,
and and I before that Bayonetta 3.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And then I guess
okay.
they have a good relationship with Nintendo because Nintendo
Joker reveal.
Yeah, Joker's reveal and
go.
Sephiroth's reveal as well.
Oh yeah.
So they have a good
Jogging my memory.
relationship. They have a good relationship with Nintendo in terms of like, yeah, we'll give you like one good announcement, you know. And I think for Smash especially that was a big deal. We'll see what the next one now that Smash is done if there's actually going to be anything. But I feel like most people try to blow it up as like this is the chance to have like an E3 level announcement kind of deal. But nah, I feel like at the most
maybe they'll talk about the title for the sequel of the Breath of the Wild. Like the title of the game.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
No, I do feel like Breath of the Wild 2. Although I've already said what I said, and I'm not about to backpedal or whatever, but Nintendo is gonna have to go big with this new one because I think a reveal like that in either E3 or VGA would be definitely something that everybody would talk about. Because if the title is something like Return of the Ganondorf or the Ganondorf, but Return of Ganondorf or something, I think that's what also is going to have a lot of fans, talk and tweet about the said subject. So I feel like they're going to either announce it at E3 or in VGA, but it might be VGA because now that I think about it, they did say 2023 spring, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So it may be VGA. I do see that then. I don't think they would do marketing for since June. I mean, they've showed us that the game is real, but I don't think they're willing to show that. Which, yeah.
I'm gonna guess we'll get a trailer this June,
sometime soon.
But that maybe goes a little bit more over story. But for the most part, they're gonna save really really big announcements and like really big trailers for before it comes out, which Game Awards lines up with that perfectly.
I hope they don't show too much like in June if they do show the game, because I don't want people to overanalyze the story and then figure out major plot points and spoil it.
Yeah, people are gonna do that anyways. So
yeah, well, let me tell you, let me confirm one aspect from that new trailer. So no, I'm just kidding. I don't know anything. The Master Sword. That's gonna be. I'm kind of hoping that was Fee, but
yeah, poor
Fee. Yeah.
But however you want to pronounce it.
But yeah,
Phoenix and I are native Spanish speakers, so we read it as Fee.
I used to say Fee as well until Hyrule Warriors, because they called her Fi.
Oh, they called her Fi?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know
that. It makes sense. Fi, High Rule, that kind of stuff. I don't know, it might be a stretch.
But last thing before we depart ways, I do want to talk about how I really think that the delay, and I'll call it now, put it on the record, I really think they're delaying Breath of the Wild 2 for their next Switch or console.
I mean, that seems like a possibility. Like, there's been a lot of smoke, and where there's smoke, there's usually fire. Now the question is this like the next like gen Nintendo console, or just like another
upgrade
of the Switch?
Yeah,
I think it's more likely to be the latter, because I don't feel like they want to do a whole generation jump and abandon the Switch while it's still doing so well. But you never know with this company.
Yeah, you never know with Nintendo, honestly, and And I really think they got something up their sleeves. If they can run 4K games and start having some of the PS5 and even PS4, Xbox One games onto the Switch, I think that will help even more other third-party
Yeah, if they can
companies.
get PS4 and Xbox One stuff running, I think that's enough to like.
Honestly, yeah, because PS5, like for me personally, I have it set up with its 4K HDR, but I don't really need that to play the game and experience what the developer is trying to have us to experience. So, yeah, I think if they can match the power of the PS4, Xbox One, and then on the go, and you know, I think it would be great.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. At this point, I'm kind of wondering if, like, maybe, you know, the tinfoil hat theories are right in that they were gonna have all those OLED screens for a Switch Pro. Now I'm wondering if, because they couldn't get those chips, you
Yeah.
know, and I'm wondering if they're bailing on the idea of a Switch Pro and are rather gonna wait like another year or two and then
Do a
have
new generation.
yeah, do a whole new Switch. I'm on the fence because I could see them going either way. I definitely think it's a sound idea for them
Yeah.
to delay Breath of the Wild so that we can get like a Switch Pro in spring. But I could also see them because you know Doug Bowser said that the Switch is halfway through its life. So
Didn't they say
I
that
could
about the Wii U?
I mean, yeah, but this is different because the Switch is
Yeah, I
actually
know.
selling super well.
So one thing keep thinking about that statement. I don't think he's lying. I think the next generational console is, you know, the Switch is on the halfway, but that doesn't mean that the
That
upgrade
nothing right.
the
Like
upgrade
the
is not around the
3DS.
corner because they did that with 3DS. Their whole DS family is like that. You know, DS, DSi, DSi Lite, DSi something, and then
But
3DS.
here's something to keep in mind though. Like they did try the upgrade route with the 3DS, and not a whole lot of games took
Yeah.
advantage of it because if they did, it wouldn't have been compatible with the original models. So something tells me like a Switch Pro will be something to like make the frame rates and the resolution perform better, but it wouldn't be more to like make games run on the Switch
I
that
see.
wouldn't have run otherwise,
That
because
makes
then
sense.
they would be like if they make games for like Switch Pro that can play on the original Switch, they're pretty much cutting off a big portion of the install base. So I think
Yeah.
that would be probably better suited for a true new generation Switch, where like it's like, okay, well, this Switch 2 game, of course you can't play it on your regular Switch because the hardware's way more powerful. So I feel
Yeah.
like what Bruce was saying, where you can kind of see them delay the game for maybe like a Switch Pro, but I don't see them doing a whole new generation without like I mean go ahead. I go Goose, take over
Uh,
this time.
well, I mean, I'll just say that like I think that the plan for a Switch Pro was there with the OLED screens,
Yeah.
but I just think that now because they're past the point of that and they've released the Switch OLED, I'm wondering if they're thinking, how about instead of releasing like a higher hardware version, we'll just wait it out another year or another like 2 or 3 years, and then we'll release the new generation. So I could see it going either way, personally. I could see them, releasing a Switch Pro alongside Breath of the Wild 2 in spring of 2023. I could also see them waiting until like 2024 to announce a Switch 2.
Yeah.
I could see it going either way. Because they're still making games on the Switch, and you can say whatever you want about the hardware, but like most games that come out that are first party on Switch still run really well in handheld, and I think that's the thing that they care about the most. So I would say that they're probably just gonna not focus on hardware for a little bit, if I had to guess, and just focus on getting more games out. And then the hardware upgrade, hopefully all of the chip shortage stuff will be over in those couple of years. And everybody will get the PS5s for Christmas morning that they want. But
Yep.
I think that'll be the time for a hardware upgrade with a new generation.
If they do something, they like in between, then it should be like the new 3DS, where they made it a little bit better, so everything runs better. But as far as like a full blown out actual hardware upgrade where everything runs better, and hey, you can now play Kingdom Hearts 3 on the Switch, technically,
Yeah.
without the cloud.
Yeah,
That would be
Yeah.
very suited to a successor.
that would be
That
the
begs the
dream.
question. That begs the question too: is would they be willing to go back to previous games like Breath of the Wild and Odyssey and give them the upgrade for the new Switch versions? Like, would they deem that as worth it? And I
That
would say
depends.
most companies, yes, but I don't know if
I
Nintendo would.
I think they would because they did it with the VR.
Why? No, no. I think that was on the Switch, the same platform though. We don't know how they would treat
Oh,
like
an
going from one.
upgrade.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Kind of
yeah,
like
yeah.
saying, oh, my bad. Yeah, I see.
They've never done that before. Like
Yeah.
on the 3DS, I can think one company did it. The people behind Cave Story. If you
Yeah,
bought
yeah.
if you bought the DSiWare version of Cave Story, you could get the 3DS version free. But
Oh, nice.
they were the only one who did that, and that was like a one-time thing. But I've never seen that sort of thing happen on Nintendo, like with their own software. So it really depends on how they handle their backwards compatibility. Hopefully it gets treated like, like, hey, you bought a new phone, like you went from an iPhone 7 to an iPhone 13. Of course, there's some newer apps you can't run on your iPhone 7, but everything that you could run on your iPhone 7 will work on your iPhone 13 or whatever. So hopefully it's like that, and they can release updates to the games, and it's all seamless, like the PS5, where like
Yeah.
PS4 stuff is like integrated seamless. It's like on like I'm gonna give you a bad example with the Wii U, where you had to jump into a whole nother menu to use the backwards compat stuff instead of all it seamlessly being in one interface.
Yeah.
Hopefully
Um,
it's PS5 backwards compatibility and not Wii U backwards compatibility.
Yeah, and even then, a lot of PS4 games got upgrades on PS5, and some companies like
Right.
actually made new versions of the game and charged for them.
Capcom,
Yeah, Capcom and
DMC5.
what else? Yeah, DMC5, which I didn't really care because I already had all that stuff modded on PC. But but the what else? Ghost of Tsushima had the new version, and so did God, what was there was the third one
Oh.
I was thinking of. But either way,
I think it's
I
likely because everyone else is doing it and they'll feel pressured to do it. Can you imagine if they release a Switch 2 and
And then
then they're
not
like,
do it?
"Oh, here's Breath of the Wild 2 Definitive Edition for Switch 2, where you can play."
Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, Mario Kart 8, the definitive edition. Oh,
Instead of just doing it, oh, you have the game, okay, just put it on their Switch 2,
and
download
then
this
that's it.
update, and it runs better.
Yeah.
uh-huh. Yeah, like
But-
I would hope that they would do something like that, but who knows with them?
Yeah,
we'll just
we have to
see.
wait and see.
Yeah, we'll
Yep.
wait and see and get more information, and then we'll definitely talk about it more in detail. But for now, Firebenders, as always, Obi, Gruce, always a pleasure having these podcasts with you guys. And other than that, Firebenders, have a great day or night.
Bye, everybody. Have a good night.
Good night.